Today, I'm going to present our work on grasp transfer for deformable objects by functional map correspondence. The main motivation behind this work is that we want to grasp objects in an unstructured environment, such as the workshop in the image, where there are arbitrarily deformable cables, articulated tools, and rigid objects. In grasping planning literature, there are a number of methods to plan grasps for rigid objects. But what about objects that have suffered some non-rigid deformation? Intuitively, we might just think that we can ignore the object after the deformation and plan grasps directly on it after the deformation has happened. However, this can be counterproductive, as we're ignoring some previous or expert knowledge, such as task awareness, and it can be inefficient because maybe we have planned grasps before the deformation has happened and we're just throwing them away and planning them again after the deformation happened. As humans, we're capable of recognizing similar objects and similarities between objects, and we can find correspondences between different parts of a shape, even in the presence of deformation. Thinking of that, we can think of a second option, which is to transfer grasps between instances of objects that have suffered non-rigid deformation. To do that, to exploit these correspondences between parts of the objects, there's a very nice framework that was proposed in the 2012 paper Functional Maps, a flexible representation of maps between shapes, which is the functional map framework that can find correspondences between near isometric shapes, even in the presence of large deformations. And by joining that together with some user input to have some task awareness, we have our method presented in this image. We start here by selecting an object and segmenting that object in different parts. A user then chooses one of the parts of the object, and we plan a number of grasps with the LoCoMo grasp planner in that particular object part. Then a robot observes a deformed version of that object and gets a point cloud of the scene. It does some pre-processing to get a mesh of the object, and we then use the functional map framework to transfer the selected segmentation from the source object to the target, and we compute the transformation between those two regions. With this rigid transformation, we can transfer the grasp to that specific segmented part. And we do some local replanning to ensure that the grasp will be stable. We do a number of experiments with these 4 objects in the image here. In these different configurations, the dataset that we use is available on our GitLab page. And we have actually very nice results shown in these videos here. In the videos, the top image shows the initial grasp before the transfer, and in the bottom, we have the grasp after the transfer. And our experiments were particularly successful. We compared them with a similar method, but using CPD and ICP instead of the functional base method. And we have seen that the functional map-based method improved grasp transfer significantly, especially for objects with high deformation, such as the case of the bear, which is a more complex object, less aligned, and with a higher deformation. In this case, only our method worked and the other 2 failed. So in this work, we have shown that functional maps are a good option for transferring grasps between objects, and it allows information to be propagated as objects deform.